have with me right now another very special friend, and his name is Alan Mendenhall, and we're going to be with, and I talk with Alan quite frequently about this, and he is, and a little bit about Alan's background. He is the Associate Dean, Faulkner University, Thomas Goode Jones School of Law. I have to write all this down. He does so many great things. And then also the Executive Director of the Blackstone and Burke Center for Law and Liberty. And he's also an author, written several books, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later in the show as well. But right now, the burning question is what everybody's talking about is Judge Brett Kavanaugh. And it seems like things are just happening, updating by the minute. How are you doing, Alan? Welcome back to the show.
I'm doing great, Donna. We've got a big night here at Faulkner University. We're hosting Tony Blair tonight, who, of course, was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1997 to 2007, and he is speaking at the Renaissance Hotel at our benefits dinner, so it should be a very fun and exciting night. But you are right. Things are moving quickly on the Kavanaugh nomination, and it is difficult to keep track because every hour there seems to be breaking news. Of course, the latest is that the White House has found no corroboration whatsoever of Dr. Ford's accusations of sexual misconduct against Judge Kavanaugh. The FBI supplemental background investigation was released this morning. It was completed yesterday, and there is no new contemporaneous evidence at all for Ford's claims that are completely uncorroborated at this point. So it appears as though Kavanaugh's nomination is going to go forward and will not be an issue. Actually, last night, about the time I was going to bed, some people stay up later than I do, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell set up a Friday procedural vote on Judge Kavanaugh, which would mean that on Saturday, the actual confirmation vote can take place. So this is a big deal. Senators presumably have been spending the morning reviewing this background report. It was kind of interesting how it was released to senators. I think all 100 senators had access to it, but their staff did not. There were several interviews done, including interviews with the three people Dr. Ford alleged were at the social gathering at which the sexual assault supposedly took place. The FBI also questioned Judge Kavanaugh's two friends from his calendar that was mentioned last week, as well as Mr. Judge, who was Kavanaugh's friend from high school. And I guess the report was made available to Chuck Grassley first at 8 a.m. and then to Senator Feinstein at 9 a.m. and other senators were able to review it periodically since then. But there does appear to be an effort to keep this investigation sort of under closed scrutiny. It is not being made available to the public. There are not going to be multiple copies of it, and the senators cannot just bring it home with them. So it's an interesting situation, and the Democrats, after raising such a fuss last week about having the investigation, now have it, and it has been completed, and nothing really changes. We're in the same position we were last week, so it's kind of one of those careful what you wish for situations for the Democrats, because now the Republicans can show, hey, we've been over backwards to accommodate you.
And they have.
Even though it was pretty clear you were just grandstanding for political purposes, we still were extra cautious, and we took every conceivable measure to appease your demands and to address the allegations of Dr. Ford, and nothing at all has turned up. And so there really, truly is no reason that we should not be confirming Kavanaugh besides ideological opposition.
Alan, I also heard they're not going to allow cell phones in, so that's going to mess the whole thing up. But no cell phones are allowed.
Yeah, and you can see why after the things that some of the Republicans have gone through lately. Senator Rand Paul's wife wrote an op-ed at CNN today talking about all the threats of violence and the assault on Senator Paul and all the turmoil and struggle that their family faces because of people like Cory Booker, Senator Booker, who have encouraged encourage this mob mentality on the left. A Democratic congressional intern who was just 27 years old, a guy named Jackson Costco, was arrested yesterday, and he was charged with making public restricted personal information, witness tampering, threats in interstate communication, all kinds of crimes, because he got on the Wikipedia pages of different senators and exposed their home addresses and even phone numbers, cell phone numbers, and email addresses of Lindsey Graham and Orrin Hatch and Mike Lee. And this is highly problematic. The intent appears to have been to incite violence and to provoke people into protests at these people's houses, at these senators' houses. And this is just troublesome. I mean, the left and the Democratic Party have become the party of violence and hatred. And it is a frightening time for America.
Well, I'm being very facetious about this, but do you think both parties are happy with the results?
Well, I think Republicans are pleased with the results. I don't think the Democrats are pleased. I think the Democrats, when they found out, it turns out, the Republicans, a lot of them were upset that they were even going to do this FBI investigation at all. But it turns out that maybe unintentionally it's going to be a political move that works to their favor, because now they can say, look, we have done everything. I mean, the Democrats were protesting in the hearings last week with Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh last Thursday, and they were trying to insist on this FBI background check, do an additional one. And this was obviously just pretextual, and they just don't want to vote for Kavanaugh, but they were making a lot of noise, and this was sort of their scripted line. We need an FBI investigation. Well, they got it. And now the Republicans said, look, we did it for you. And it didn't turn anything up. So now the Democrats are looking at, well, he drank more than he said he drank when he was in college. And goodness gracious, if we were to do these FBI investigations on all these senators and what they drank in college, who knows how many of them would be left?
No one would be left. There would be no one left in office. So I think they're opening up a can of worms.
Senator Booker wrote an article in 1994 talking about how he had sexually assaulted somebody, and he's still sitting up there. So of all people to be sitting on his high horse, he is not the one to be lecturing people.
Well, and then this is another thought. I guess no one on the left is thinking about this, but we actually had a president of the United States for 8 years who admitted to drug use. Does that disqualify him?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, we had President Obama who did cocaine and smoked weed and all that.
He wrote it in a book. He did
also
it.
had a serial sexual predator in Bill Clinton before that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the hypocrisy is just astounding on the left.
So do you want to go back that far? I don't think you want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah, I don't think people want, I mean, heck, we could go back to preschool and see who stole a crayon from other people's boxes, but at a certain point, it becomes irrelevant.
Well, you know something? I'm going to fess up. I'm fessing up to you right now, okay, before it gets out. I may run for office someday. I stole some crayons one time from my uncle's desk and gave them to a little girl in school who had no crayons. Of course, I got found out about my parents beat me up and all this kind of stuff. But anyway.
That sounds like my son.
I felt sorry for that little girl.
Well, that's what my son did. I spent all this money buying these nice baseball cards and everything for him, and he went to school and came back and he didn't have any of them, and he had given them away to the kids that didn't have any. And so it's like, how do you teach your son, responsibility over your property, but also you gotta kind of feel for his heart, his instincts there. He felt bad for the kids that didn't have any. So that's one of the situations where as a parent you kind of just have to take a time out and say, oh.
Yeah, Mother later said she said, I hated that I had to whip you for that. She said, because I knew your heart was in the right place.
That's right.
I think I was 7, just in case somebody's taking notes. I was 7.
Well,
so you can look that up.
The thing with the Kavanaugh confirmation, though, is the drama is still not completely over, because we still do not know for sure how senators are going to vote on Saturday.
It's not over yet. I mean, there are so many surprises that could still happen.
That's true. And with this news cycle, every 5 minutes something new comes out, and who knows, maybe maybe Kavanaugh forgot to tie his shoes one day, and that's going to get brought up.
That's horrible.
But, the people to look at are going to be Jeff Flake of Arizona, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. That's on the Republican side. Those are sort of the moderate swing voters. And, of course, Flake was really the one responsible for having this extra FBI investigation.
You should be happy now.
Yeah, but it looks as though he and Collins are signaling within the last couple hours that they are going to that they're satisfied with the FBI report, that there was no corroborating evidence, and that to me is a signal that they are going to vote yay on Kavanaugh on Saturday. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska is still being pretty tight-lipped about it, so we don't really know what she'll do. But all you really need are Flake and Collins. Of course, there's still Manchin and Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, Manchin of West Virginia, who are moderate Democrats and could very well vote for Kavanaugh, and may even have to. I was talking to a friend. I lived in West Virginia for 3.5 years, went to law school there, got my master's in English there, and have a lot of friends there. I was talking to a friend there who is he's a lobbyist. He's involved in politics, and he was sort of giving me the situation on the ground for Manchin. And he was saying, well, there's some polling here in the state that suggests if Manchin does not vote yes on Kavanaugh, he'll get voted out of office. That there's a popular Republican, Patrick Morrissey, who was Attorney General of West Virginia, who would surpass Manchin in the vote tally if Manchin refuses to confirm. And on the other hand, if Manchin votes yes on Kavanaugh, then all these Democratic funding sources will withdraw their money from Manchin's campaign. So it's really a lose-lose situation for Manchin. And Manchin's not a bad guy, but he's pro-Obamacare and he's got some bad policies, but he's not a bad person. But it's still great news for conservatives that Republicans could pick up that seat, and that Manchin's in that tight spot in a kind of a lose-lose situation. Who knows? He may want to lose because he still could rerun for governor, be governor of that state again. He was governor before he was senator. So who knows what his political ambitions are? He may try to get in with some future presidential administration, or if he votes yes on Kavanaugh, he may even change parties to Republican.
That's very possible there. So who was the biggest surprise out of this whole thing? Who surprised you the most?
Which senator surprised me the most? Well, I don't know. That's actually a good question. The answer will depend on Saturday whether a Democrat votes yes, and that would be my answer is whichever Democrat votes yes. If any of those three senators on the Republican side, Flake, Collins, and Murkowski, votes no, then that will be my biggest surprise.
They'll be taken out to the woodshed too. You know that?
Yeah.
By the voters.
That is absolutely true. But I guess my biggest surprise to date is probably Lindsey Graham.
Me too. I was hoping you'd mention that.
Lindsey Graham fan, but boy,
I was shocked
last week and tell it like it is.
Finally. Well, it's about time.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like where has this Senator Graham been for his whole
Would love to have met this guy a long time ago.
Yeah, really. If he had come out like that when he ran for president, it would have been a different story.
Absolutely.
But I'm still not crazy about a lot of the policies he supports and some of the positions he takes.
Oh, and he's still ticked off at President Trump.
Situation.
He's still ticked at President Trump because he always has to have something to say.
Right. He's still in that never Trumper crowd, and
till he gets out of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Until he gets out of that. I mean, he just really needs to get over it.
Until he gets out of that. And I think he's still, a pretty big government guy in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm just not one of those people that thinks it's a good idea for Republicans and Democrats to keep fighting over who's going to control the levers of power so that one or the other can coerce the rest of the country. What we really need to do is minimize the power of the federal government and shrink it and restore some of that power to the people.
Well, every successful business person I know of always thinks of the worst thing that could possibly happen. So let's say that this doesn't happen, it doesn't go in the favor of Judge Kavanaugh. What would be the scenario after that?
Wow, well, that would I would be surprised. So if I was a betting man, I would bet on Kavanaugh's getting confirmed on Saturday.
However,
so if it doesn't happen, then Trump would withdraw that nomination and nominate somebody else. And if he were smart, he would nominate Amy Coney Barrett. She was my favorite to begin with.
She was yours.
To me, is actually kind of a moderate guy, which just makes the Democrats' hysteria even more ridiculous and comical because, Trump picked the most modern of the choices he had narrowed it down to, and now he'll probably pick Amy Coney Barrett, and she is a staunch conservative, opposed to everything that the Democrats support, and she is a female who will certainly have no record of sexual assault or any such thing. And
I don't know. Women abuse men too, There are women who abuse men.
There are, but I can guarantee you, Amy Coney Barrett's not one of them. And she's got, she's a mother of many children. She is an accomplished professional. She is a very committed Catholic, a very religious person, a devout person, and a very conservative person. And the Republicans will probably 100% back her. She won't have this cloud behind her that Kavanaugh has, even if it's unwarranted, which I believe it is. And so she'll get through, and the Republicans will have an even more conservative person there. So, no matter what, I think the Republicans come out on top. I think potentially the Democrats have ruined some of their Senate seats. They may lose Senate seats. The Republicans may gain seats in the Senate. I think they're going to gain. I think the Democrats may gain some seats in the House. But Republicans are going to keep the Senate, may even grow their lead in the Senate, which means that they'll have even more of a chance to confirm whoever comes next. And it will just reveal that the Democrats' hysterical strategy in this situation has been a severe miscalculation.
Yeah, it's been bad for them.
They're so out of touch with ordinary Americans that they do not understand how this is playing with ordinary people.
No, they don't. Have you thought about this scenario? President Trump is a former businessman, so he doesn't run the presidency like you would, like a politician. It's like a business.
Right.
So in the business world, would the businessman, President Trump, going ahead and say, Kavanaugh, it's great, I love you and all this kind of good stuff, but too much baggage, could he possibly change his mind?
He could, but I think it's unlikely because they've gone so far and the vetting process is so long, the FBI investigations, this has all taken months. And I think Donald Trump absolutely 100% believes Brett Kavanaugh. And I think he is, in that respect, an honorable man. I mean, Donald Trump has done some things that, aren't so honorable, but I think when it comes to keeping his word on something like this, he is going to do that. And I think Kavanaugh has shown that he is not just qualified, but of a high character and deserves to be on the seat. He is one of the best, most capable judges in the country, and if the goal is to get the best people on the Supreme Court, then he's one of those, and he deserves it. And I think Trump thinks that way, and I think Trump knows that Kavanaugh deserves it, and I think Trump will stick behind him no matter what.
And we definitely look behind the controversy, because he's been there with him throughout the whole thing.
He has, and I respect that. And you can't just have a situation where people are having their entire careers ruined based on uncorroborated accusations. It's just, that's the type of stuff that's going to lead not to progress, but to just dangerous regress. The excesses of the Me Too movement may lead to a situation where there are men out there who are too afraid to work with women because they're too afraid of, being accused of something, or too afraid to hire women because they're too scared that they may be accused, and that's going to take us backwards.
And I totally agree with you on that. And let me also insert something else. I know women who have been abused, and they were. So what this is going to do is make it harder on them to come out.
It's going to cheapen their.
I do not like
this. It's going to
this.
cheapen their actual experiences, and it's really an abuse of the system. It's really, it's a shame. It's wrong to the people who are falsely accused, and it's wrong to all the women who have actually been sexually assaulted and actually suffered harms and wrongs, and it cheapens their experience.
It does.
And that's just terrible.
I just don't like this. Sherry Height, who is the executive director of Family Services of North Alabama, will be on the show tomorrow at 1 p.m. So we're going to talk about that, what you need to do when you are abused. You know, legally go to the police department, do something. I mean, don't just, pretend and then wait 35, because that's what people are going to think from this point on.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about what you really need to do.
You're right. There needs to be more education about what people should do when they are sexually assaulted. And there are victims of sexual assault who have suffered horrifying things and who are afraid to speak out. And I think that this hysteria around the Kavanaugh nomination is not going to help those people, but it's going to make them even more reticent to come out because they're going to be afraid of being called liars and all that kind of stuff, but not because people are calling for that, because they're just accusations going around that are just completely uncorroborated, and it's not like the Kavanaugh situation is taken in isolation. There's a pattern of this kind of stuff happening, and for political reasons, and that to me is what makes this almost the most distasteful. Is that this is all being done for politics. That is just the dirtiest of the dirty.
Ruin someone.
I can't even believe that we've stooped to this.
I can't either. To ruin someone's reputation. Is this, Alan, in your opinion, is this all about abortion?
Well, I don't know that it's all about abortion, but I think that obviously the Democrats are afraid of the overturning of Roe v. Wade in D.C., and so that's one of the major motivations for opposing Kavanaugh's nomination. But there are a lot of other reasons as well. I mean, Kavanaugh's had a lot of rulings that were sort of, I guess you'd call them anti-EPA rulings, and he is hostile to the vast administrative state. And of course, the Democrats have been wanting to expand and enlarge the federal government and all these federal agencies for a long time, because if you can expand those and populate them with your own people, it's hard to get some of those federal employees out. And you can see what's happening with the deep state that President Trump is facing. He's got all these people that work technically in his administration, but they were put there by Obama, and so they're trying to subvert his agenda from within. It's part of the resistance. There's this idea on the left that Donald Trump is an illegitimate president, and therefore anything goes for people on the left. They can be violent, they can be lawless, they can break windows, they can go into restaurants and run off clientele, they can vandalize and destroy private property, all because they think Donald Trump is an illegitimate president. Never mind that he was elected president by the people of the United States.
You got that right. My son is in the professional world. He's also a youth minister. And so I just asked him yesterday, I said, what do you think about all this? Has this changed your views with the way, because he's a neck hugger. We're all from the South. We hug necks. And he said, you know something?
Yeah.
He said, I'm not going to hug another woman's neck anymore. He said, I'm afraid to. Somebody may think something.
That's exactly right. No, that is exactly right. And it's a shame that that people can't act. Everyone's hypersensitive, and it really has distorted just regular everyday interactions among people. And I mean, if you look at in the political scene, you don't have senators that are even able to just meet directly with their constituents anymore. The Capitol Police have been arresting the Senate office building, and that's supposed to be an open forum. That's supposed to be a place where anybody can go up there and go knock on their senator's door and say, "Nice to Senator Shelby. It's great to see you. I just like to introduce myself and tell you my concerns." But now you've got Susan Collins can't even go to and from her office. She's being escorted by police detail, and she's sort of barricaded in her office, and because everything has gotten so violent, and we've become socially dysfunctional. It's really a frightening period for us.
It really is, especially this next generation growing up. That's what they see right now. No human touch. You text everybody, and I text people as well. But what I mean is that's all the communication is just gone. I mean, so I'm really concerned about the next generation growing up. Let's go ahead and cut to a commercial break. We're just a little bit behind, so we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Everybody, hang around. Be right. We're not on air, but folks from Facebook Live can see us, can listen to us right now. Great job, Alan. Always great, but I'm really concerned about this generation growing up in this mess.
It is a frightening time, and it's one of those things where you turn on the news and you just don't recognize the country that's being presented up there. Now, I have to believe that ordinary people across America do not experience this country in the way that it's presented on television. That we all have jobs and we go about our business and we have our families and we go to Little League and we go to church and synagogue and we live normal lives. And that what we see on television is really just a spectacle designed to increase viewers. But I'm just not so sure anymore. It's tough to distinguish what's reality from what's just trumped up television.
It is, and like what we do here in everyday life. But I'll tell you something else. I think there are going to be a lot of surprised people during the general election. I think the silent majority is going to come right back out again.
I think so too, and I think it'll be kind of the way that people were surprised by Trump's win in the presidential election. That there'll be as many people that are just as surprised by all the outcomes of these midterm elections.
And I'll tell you something else. This is ordinary folks like me. I pay close attention to the people who keep their mouths shut and don't help. I really do. Those people I don't vote for. I don't care what side of I don't care if they're, Republican or Democrat. I won't vote for them. And I think a lot of people are like me. They have the same thoughts. It's like, like Lindsey Graham, I'm glad he finally came out and, and woke up a little bit, but still, he still has to take jabs at the president. He still does that.
Yeah, I know. The only positive to that is that it gave him added credibility in that moment last week. Because they were like, okay, well, this guy's anti-Trump, and he's still showing righteous indignation at this process, which he ought to. I just never seen it.
I kind of liked it. I thought it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
but
I loved it.
As a matter of fact, I thought, what, is this like a Saturday Night Live skit? Really, I was wondering if I found somebody who looks just like him.
Did they find a lookalike and put him up there? Yeah, no, that's the proudest I've ever been to Lindsey Graham.
It was really.
I ever have been.
Okay, we're about to go into a break. It'll be just a few seconds. Okay, we have a commercial going on, about 4 seconds. Dean of Faulkner University, Thomas Goode Jones School of Law, Executive Director of the Blackstone and Burke Center for Law and Liberty, and he's also an author. So welcome back to the show, Alan. Good to see you.
Thanks, Donna. It's great to be here, as always.
Always great. And I'll tell you what, very great information you have out there. Of course, it's going to change continually, I'm sure. We still have, a couple of days before Saturday.
And there's still senators, I'm sure, that are out there reviewing the documents who haven't reviewed them. If you've got 100 of them, then they all need to review the 302 forms of the FBI interviews. Then that's, I'm sure, still going on.
Well, what do you think? What do you think the left is thinking? They were in a meeting. We know about that. So they leave the meeting, and so the word out is that they were all kind of stone-faced. So are they playing poker? Are they're pretending they don't like what's in there, or do you think they really are dismayed?
Well, I think they're going to try to do whatever they can do to derail this nomination. I don't think they're done attempting to derail it. I think, maybe they're going to try to find someone to get up there and say he perjured himself because he didn't he drank, or that he's actually used to being blackout drunk, or they're going to come and say well, this was not a thorough investigation done by the FBI, that President Trump placed limitations on the agency's probe and did not allow the supplemental background investigation to be fulfilled in its fullest form. I'm sure that all these things are taking place, but I just don't know exactly what they have in mind, other than I'm confident that they are cooking up some kind of stunt or another. They may walk out on the vote. They may not even show up on the vote this weekend. They may try to do anything they can do to say this is an illegitimate confirmation. And how they do that, I don't know. But, their ways have become increasingly wicked, and so I would not be surprised to see just some kind of absurd offensive thing happening.
Well, it's really going to be unleashed now. I mean, there's no question about it. And then another thing is, what could Judge Kavanaugh do? Because I'm telling you what, and then the talks were, he wouldn't be a good judge, he's going to lose his temper. I've got to tell you, I can't believe the guy didn't come more unglued. I mean, if you're lying, you're trying to ruin somebody's life and their reputation, their kids are listening, the wife is listening to all of this, you're going to get upset.
Yeah, if you've been falsely accused of a crime, I mean, I can't imagine being more profoundly offended than that. I mean, you've got to defend your honor and your character and your good name and reputation, and dragging it through the mud in a way that's going to be deeply historical. It's not like, you get nominated to the Supreme Court, you go through all this, and it's not going to be in the history books. I mean, he's front page news for the entire country and the entire world to see, and this will all be recorded in the history books. So we're talking about a man's reputation for centuries, not just, for this current news cycle. So he has to defend his honor, and he has to be indignant and angry at this kind of treatment.
I don't know. Do you think he'll throw some lawsuits out there?
No, I don't.
I mean, because he could. I mean, he really could.
Yeah, I don't think he will. It wouldn't surprise me if, I think these claims are going to continue to be investigated afterwards, but I do think, like what happened with the allegations against Roy Moore that have been mostly discredited since the Senate race last year, that they kind of just disappeared anymore, that those stories were discredited because it doesn't serve a political function anymore. But, there's really only one. There's the defamation lawsuit that Chief Justice Moore is going through right now, but the other allegations have been discredited, and it just is not a newsworthy thing because it doesn't serve the political purposes of the left.
Well, do you think, there were some folks who said, well, I just won't vote for Roy Moore because, it's just too much. Do you think there are some people now who are rethinking that?
I think maybe in Alabama, there are people. I mean, I think that, the Republican Senatorial Committee and some of these national people that refuse to support his campaign at the national level probably still are happy that, they're probably happier having Doug Jones in there because they just, they're not truly conservative. They're in it for other reasons, enriching themselves and getting power and all that kind of stuff. But I suspect, I don't know how many, I couldn't put a number on it, but I suspect there are people that are rethinking that situation. Like, was the Washington Post that broke both stories, and they looked at it the same way by looking at a yearbook and looking at people's high school records and going and these seem suspicious. Going and giving people polygraphs and lie detectors, which, by the way, mean absolutely nothing. Polygraph, a polygraph lie detector is not admissible as evidence in a court of law. So why we treat it as if it's some just positive piece of evidence in the media is beyond me. I don't know why we treat that as if it's automatically disqualifying for somebody if they don't do well in a polygraph or they do well in a polygraph. And of course now we have this information out there saying that Ford's ex-boyfriend saying that she used to train people and how to pass polygraphs. So
if you train people, you know how to get out of it. or you know how to make it
Yeah.
sound the right way. You know something else I thought about too, and this is on the Democrat side. And I'm saying this because I have family members who are Democrats, and I also have family members who are Republicans. So I'm like all over the board when it comes
Yeah.
to politics. My take on this: okay, every successful football college, whatever, pro football, basketball, whatever, they do not give their plans away, and you want to do surprise attacks. But what I'm saying is
Right.
on the Democrat side, it's always the same old, same old. It's always the same old play.
Yeah.
Don't they need to do
Yeah,
something
well,
different?
You know, there's similar tactics, and you know they're going to happen, but they just manifest themselves in different ways because political circumstances change and the different targets of their eye are changed. So, you know, Roy Moore is a very different person from Judge Kavanaugh, and the approach that has to be taken on the left to take down those type of people will be slightly different based on the different bios and backgrounds. But one thing that I have been wondering lately about the left is, what is the end goal? Like, what is your worldview? It's you take somebody who's genuinely Christian and you say, well, what's your worldview? And you kind of understand where they're coming from. You know, they want to live a godly life and follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, and their goal is to get to heaven and try to convert as many people as possible. And it's pretty easy to figure that out. With Marxists, it's easy to figure out. They have this sort of secular eschatology where they want to accomplish this heaven on earth within history. They have a teleology where they say, we want this to institute this warfare, this class warfare that's going to result in the proletariat rising over the capitalists and all this kind of. But the left today, the progressive left, I don't know what it is that they want to accomplish. Like, what is the end goal? And you might put the question this way: if you ask a leftist, in what society would you be a conservative? In other words, what would society have to look like in order for you to say, okay, we've got what we wanted. This is the goal. We've achieved it. And I don't think there is one, because I think that they can't settle on what it is they want other than just to tear down every sign and symbol of Western civilization. They want to get rid of freedom, and they want to chase power. They want to be empowered, and they want to destroy their enemies. But they don't have any guiding narrative. They don't have any common purpose other than that. And that, to me, is frightening. That's French Revolution type stuff. That's where people start getting their heads cut off in the guillotine in the streets. And there's just bloodshed and mass hysteria and anarchy.
Well, the end time speaks of that.
Generating into. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's becoming that way. I don't think every Democratic politician obviously thinks like that, but what I think they are doing is they're trying to mobilize the masses to be like that for their own political purposes. I don't think that these senators are completely uncivilized people, but they are using people who don't know any better, and they're trying to incite young people into violence and inflame the passions in ways that are very destructive and dangerous.
Yeah, that's very dangerous. Alan, in your opinion, is this going to keep good people out of politics?
Yes, it absolutely will.
Yeah, because you're going to be lied on.
I think it will deter people from serving, because they don't want. I mean, imagine you've got little kids. Like, imagine what poor Judge Kavanaugh's little daughters have gone
Oh, my
through.
goodness.
I mean, this has to be traumatizing. He's got two young daughters who are somehow wise enough to pray for Dr. Ford without any prompting from their dad. They just did that. And what wisdom they've shown beyond what these adult Democratic senators have shown. It's like these young children know how to be the adults, and these Democratic senators don't. They don't even know how to be grown-ups.
You just hit that nail right on the head. Exactly. There's nothing else to be said about that. When the kids are wiser.
That's right.
But it's from their upbringing, though. Because, this is another indication to me, this is a good home. These kids were taught that. They were taught to forgive people.
Exactly. Well, in a culture that has forgotten the fundamentals of Christianity, I mean, Christianity is about grace and mercy and forgiveness, and if you start going and trying to disqualify people for a lifetime for things that they have done, I'm not speaking about Kavanaugh, because I don't think Kavanaugh did the things that he's accused of doing,
right.
besides, drinking and partying. But let's say he was drinking and partying. Let's say he did all that stuff. You have to be able to forgive people for their sins, because God does. I mean, who are we to not do that? I mean, we're not better than God, so who the heck are we not to forgive people? So it's just, to me, a culture that lacks that understanding of grace and forgiveness is a frightening one. And if you look at what happened after, remember the Charleston shootings a few years back?
Absolutely.
Someone came in and shot up the church, and there were a lot of media that they were shocked that these black families came out and they were forgiving the shooter, and they couldn't believe it. And there were even some sort of political agitators that were saying, "Oh, these people are just being, servile, and they need to, this is wrong." But how moving and how powerful it is that the first thing they did was forgive their enemy, forgive the man that came up and shot their church. I mean, that was more powerful than any other response they could have given. And if we are in a culture that we don't remember the power of forgiveness, we don't remember the power of grace, we don't remember the power of mercy, then I fear for our future.
I do too. Another thing they said is they wanted to keep Al Sharpton out. They told him not to come into town.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, they did. Look it up. That was one of the first things I remembered about that. They told it was either him, let's see, Al Sharpton or Reverend Jesse Jackson. So one of them said, "Don't come."
It's highly problematic to look at a tragedy and think opportunity for me. That's not what tragedies should be about. Tragedies should be about healing and not, cashing in.
I totally agree with you. We're going to have to call it a day. Boy, that hour flew by.
Sure did. I'm shocked that hour went by.
It's always great talking to you.
Go downtown and see Tony Blair, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You have a good time tonight. And let's get together. We'd love to have you back next week. I hope you don't think it's too often, but get your opinion on what happens over the weekend. Okay. All right. We'll get in contact then as soon as the show's over, and we'll get you set up for next week.
Thanks, Donna. Sounds good.
Okay. See you later. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too.